Attempt 1 of most Nuzlocks generally fades into obscurity, with the run faltering early and crumbling soon after. On the rare occasion can a first run get anywhere off the ground, maybe to mid-game, to the 3rd or 4th gym, but even then, a wipe on attempt 1 is still called learning. What if this was no longer the case for almost every single game? What if the ceiling of Nuzlocke skills was being shattered all the time by new players beating some of the hardest Pokemon hacks of all time on attempt number 1? This is the Pokemon Blaze Black Hardcore Nuzlocke, and I beat it on attempt number 1. The rules of a hardcore Nuzlocke are pretty simple. You can get 1 Pokemon per area, no overleveling the next gym, no items in battle, and set mode's always on. Gifts and shiny Pokemon, however, don't necessarily count as an encounter, but are a limited extra resource, aka the starter doesn't count as a new Town encounter. Quite simple really, but a rule set that can change the flow of the game entirely. I'm also playing on the last patch for the game, version 3.1.0 for anyone wondering. And before we kick on into the video, you should all hit the subscribe button. We have a lot of new viewers every single day on the channel, and it would mean the world if you all hit that subscribe button, as we're aiming to hit 10,000 subscribers by 2025. Pokemon Blaze Black, if you are unaware, is a ROM hack made by legendary hacker Drayden in the early 2010s. Yes, I feel old too. That takes the original Unova region we all know and love, and turns it into a much more improved and more difficult experience for runners like you and I to enjoy. It adds all 649 current Pokemon into the region, tougher boss battles, a higher level curve, and so much more. It improves a myriad of Pokemon to become better versions of themselves, like the starters. Snivy now has access to Contrary, which is incredible for early game, as well as learning Leaf Storm toward the end to have incredible sweeping potential by the Elite Four, with it also getting the Dragon typing to give it a hand against those pesky fire types that are around. Tepig is now a bulky physical monster, with it dropping its special attack and speed in exchange for even more power and great bulk, as well as it swapping its fighting type to now be a real animalistic beast with the ground typing addition, and it now gaining adaptability makes it superbly powerful, having almost unmatched raw damage output. Oshawott is unfortunately a little lacking in comparison to the other two, however I do go for the Contrary Snake, as there's a fight pretty early on that is truly vital for. After beating the tar out of our rivals, we destroy the house and our mum kicks us out, leaving us with nowhere to go. So we grab our phone and head off to see some helicopter parenting, before slinging through to the lab and getting ourselves a Pokedex. We then get serenaded by our friends, as we get to take our first steps of the Nuzlocke while Juniper gives me her balls. Juniper's balls in my hand allowed me to get a Route 1 encounter in Lilliput with Pickup, which could be handy for us to get some cool items. Although before we can even get comfortable with our new puppy, N challenges us to a fight after hearing that our Pokemon is already enjoying its travels with a trainer commanding it. To prove himself, he throws some animals my way, but luckily we can overlevel him and just get through on raw power alone. Our mum gives us a buzz before actually proving that she's not completely useless by making it through the Route 1 without being executed by the mighty epic Pidgeys that lie there, as she gives us our very own running shoes, and I can then storm into the grass to pick up a cool little Caterpie. Bianca then challenges us to a fight, and Butterfree is able to cut the cat down a peg or two, and Oshawott also gets slammed by the buttery one. Before I even debate going to take on the first gym leader in Chile, I go across to the Dream Yard and pick up a gift monkey in Panpour. These guys are really quite solid in the Drayano games. L1 is going to be able to do just fine against the first gym and Charon's Tepig. Speaking of which, I threw him against the wall and chucked him out of the trainer school so I could go fight the gym leader without anyone getting in my way this time. Striaton's gym leader is traditionally the one of the restaurateurs that has the type that was super effective against your starter, heavily encouraging use of your new elemental monkey that we just got in the dream yard. This fight is a rotation battle, and to be honest, I hate these. I really hate them. They're unpredictable, which is great for entertainment, don't get me wrong, but when you're trying to plan something out and be a calculated Nuzlocke like myself, by God, it's awful. At least with this gym, Chili's team is actually very tame, with him carrying all 5 fire starters and his respective elemental monkey. So for all of that talk about how bad rotation battles are, I have some news for you. With the most disappointing gym fight in the entire game, and a Pampaw that has Water Pulse and Stab, I'm able to one-shot all of Chili's team members apart from his little Panseer to get myself the trio badge for my, frankly, minimal troubles that we've faced thus far. After beating the gym leader, a scientist calling herself Fennel, which is a mid-ass herb by the way, brings us into her room at Professor Juniper's request. Fennel wants us to find a Mooner to get ourselves some, while also giving us the TM for hidden power. I leveled the gang up here and got a couple of good evos like Herdier and Servine, before taking on the next split. This split is actually infested with a hell of a lot of Team Plasma Grunts, with a pair in the Dreamyard making it an effective 5 vs 6 fight that gets very easily handled by Herdier. We're then finally able to break the barriers of Drayden City and can push to Route 3, where Charon takes us on yet again. Yeah, this is a pretty common thing. There's a stupid number of rival fights in this game, I can't even lie. His team this time is still pretty ordinary, although the Staravia lead can do some mischief if you're not careful, and the Rock and Roller can definitely hurt. Other than that, his team is simply fodder for my monkey and snake. Our conversation afterward gets interrupted by more goons who then charge through us, followed by Bianca and a young girl who had her Pokemon taken from her by the grunts. We gotta get that shit back real quick, but not without a quick Wellspring Cave encounter that's good enough to make me squeal. It's not Drillbur, it's not Meditite, it's even better, it's Gibble. I don't really think I need to explain how good Garchomp is, do I? These grunts are pretty easy, and alongside Charon, I can make him do most of the work, as his Pokemon are meaningless. I also get the TM for Thief. This allows us to get an absolutely ridiculous amount of items at this point of the game, as a lot of the traditional held items like Silver Powders and Silk Scarves are held by the wild Pokemon in the local area at this point. I delayed my Route 3 encounter a little until I received the Fishing Rod as a reward for the kids' Pokemon being returned to them. Drayden City gives the mighty, amazing, awesome Basculin. Woo. This guy is rather ordinary at the best of times, and even Drayano couldn't save it. With it gaining attack, speed, a new ability and more, it's still really ordinary. I then proceeded to fish in the water on Route 3 as well, getting my own Chinchou, which is simply awesome for Elesa and other major fights throughout the game. Providing its Volt Absorb, I quickly scurry across to Outer Pinwheel Forest to get my own encounter. By the way, the forest is generally regarded as 2 areas in most games, with the commonly used Pinwheel Claws as it's known. If you disagree with that, for any reason whatsoever, you can comment it down below where I'll be sure to read it and really care a lot. Outer Pinwheel gives me a banger encounter in Sork. Yes, you can make the joke in the comments, I don't care. This guy is a huge carry for the early game against all of the dark types we run into and so much more, just like a certain normal type gym leader that we gotta fight soon. With that though, we have all of our encounters to take on the hardest gym in the game, and maybe even the hardest gym leader in Drayano hacks of all, Lenora. Her team is not that bad at face value, right? It's pretty chill. Until you see that there's a double Intimidate lead, and that Stantler's pretty strong at a point in the game where your Pokemon are level 20. 100 base attack with Retaliate is not anything to scoff at, let alone the rest of them having Retaliate. However, this is where our starter choice and in turn monkey choice comes back to pay its weight in absolute diamonds. By getting a contrary Snivy all the way back in the beginning of the game, the Intimidate lead suddenly becomes the catalyst for us to have a very enjoyable gym fight. Our monkey, at the same time, by having the move Tickle, is able to buff up our snake even further, making it a nigh-on indestructible wall being hit by immovable objects. Well, movable objects when you do have a +3 boost to your attack stat, anyway. Her lead Shikanokonoko is able to be cut down in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, bringing out the big buffalo, who has the ability Sap Sipper, effectively destroying my momentum, right? Until we hit the huge 30% burn chance from Scald at the cost of one little monkey's life, as it's forced to take a dual Retaliate to the face, From here, the fight becomes similar to another tough normal gym leader in a difficulty hack with a double battle. I'm kind of able to focus on the non-burned opposition side in slot B instead, with Bouffalon only taking hits when a Pokemon on the other slot faints, also forcing her to use the Super Potion on it instead of another Mon, which was super nice. Burret forces me to double target it thanks to it using Follow Me, as Bouffalon does waste its last chance by dying to a burn, and Bibarel eats leaves, allowing my Snack to carry us to victory and get our very own basic badge and a new level cap. Upon attempting to leave the library, we encounter Team Plasma yet again, and they're actually committing a crime by stealing the dragon's head from the statue, assuming it has something to do with the legendary Pokemon. We leave the museum and are introduced to the next gym leader, Burgh. And finally, after 13 years of Pokemon, we encounter gym leaders that actually do their job and help out the region rather than just making a child do everything. Burgh accompanies us into the Pinwheel Forest and splits from us to look upon the other side of the forest as we go into the brush, where we can get another monkey for ourselves. We also fight some more grunts in here on our way through to get the skull back, before Lenora gives us some moonstones. We see a pretty cool view of trucks that reminds me of some other game out there. No more. As we then arrive into the biggest city in Pokemon so far, Castelia. Yes, I know Lumio's and probably Winden is bigger, but don't come at me. It's okay. This is where the third gym leader resides, but we've got a few things to get out of the way first. With the Eviolite on North Street from this scientist, before running into a Volibee on Route 4. This is a pretty cool guy that will come in handy later. Before heading toward the gym, where we find out that Bianca had a Pokemon pinched by Team Plasma too. Of course, we gotta get that back for her. A cheeky Plasma fight later and she has her Mooner, while we have ourselves a tough gym fight on the horizon. Burgh is a very tough fight, and is probably the toughest fight we'll have for some time. His lead Vespiquen makes one-shotting stuff tough from the lead, and the Flame Orb Heracross with Guts is very tough as well, but we'll be just fine, as with some EV training I'm able to lead Monkey and the Rock against his intimidating bugs. Simisear with the Flying Gem Acrobatics gets the job done against Mask, while a Rampardo spanking kills off Vespiquen. I go for a Flame Burst to hit Scolipede for good damage as it clicks Rock Slide, unfortunately flinching me, making Yanmega get its very own speed boost, or at least it would have if it didn't click U-turn. This brings out Leavanny, as I can shoot Scolipede with a Flame Burst, and I switch out Rampardos to Gabite. I then swing across to Xatu while I one-tap Heracross with a cheeky Unburdened Acro, and thanks to Leavanny protecting, I'm still safe. Yanmega is back in now, so it's just the final two Mons left. I Flame Burst Yanmega, and I'm unsure as to whether it killed or not, so I also clicked me first with Xatu, and ensured it went down. I now go to Sock, and a single Flame Burst is enough to get ourselves the Insect Badge from Burgh, in what was actually a very solid fight and definitely not a carry from a Fiery Monkey in any way at all. The new split gives us an absolute ton of new Pokemon, with nearly everything now being fully evolved in our box before we even get moving into Elesa Split, including our starter and more. From here though, we can only go forwards, as Cheren and Bianca are so far below our levels that their fights are a borderline joke for us and our box. We can head out west to the Desert Resort now, and pick up an awesome Trapinch, while we also head into the depths of the Relic Castle, where we grab a great encounter in the Evergreen Ghastly. This thing is stupidly good, with it being modest and having the ability Levitate for all those pesky ground types. We arrive in an Imbaza city, and run into Team Plasma yet again, harassing someone. Shock. Surely it's getting a little tiring at this point, right? But at least Bianca can make us make Sork a little gorgeous thing. Her dad chased her all the way here, which is kinda cringe and a little stalkery to do that to your own kid just to tell her to go home, to be honest. Elesa saved the day though, and we can scurry up routes 5, 16, and into the Lost Lawn Forest to get ourselves a new triad of encounters. In the interesting early Bisharp, the ever-present king of Nuzlocke Pokemon, Magikarp, and then the amazing dupe for later of Ordino. This guy effectively enables near enough every shaking grass encounter to be a lot more obtainable. I also go into the battle subway and simply grab the TMs. The other items I'll be more or less limiting myself to only one of at any given time. Now though, we can take on the next couple boss fights, starting with N. He's still unfortunately a free trainer battle, but that'll change very soon, as his Pokemon are still unevolved, and between our Moxie Gyarados, and Gengar, we can smash N into the Ferris wheel's gears to kick him and the rest of Plasma out of Nimbaza City. Now for Elesa. Her gym trainers are actually demons, with Luxrays and Jolteons that are ready to slap you in the face if you're not careful. I actually had to take the time to calc these fights because they're serious threats before going to the lab to cook for the electrifying model herself. Her team on paper actually looks kind of relaxed. And at long last, a single battle gym leader! Finally! Her Emolga lead is actually pretty easy to handle, right? Of all the potential Pokemon to lead in my box, all the possible guys that can kill and start this fight off, the Pokemon I chose to lead with was Gyarados on the Electric Gym. I scouted what she was doing with a Protect and can Strength to get an attack boost. Thanks to us getting level 39 from the Rat, we're still not faster. You probably thought otherwise, right? Considering we've got like EVs and stuff. It's okay. It won't be the last of Gyarados in this fight. I can pivot through Lantern to do some chip and paralyze it in order to get my goat Gengar in to kill the Tarantula with a big ball of shadows. Manectric suffers a similar fate, and I switch Lantern in on the Ampharos before paralyzing it, and noticing that it just can't hit me. Or more the point, won't. I don't even know why it had Focus Blast there the whole time. Either way, Raichu comes in to go for a Grass Knot in an effort to do serious damage, but I'm too slim so it Focus Blasts instead, hitting just one of the two that it fired in at me. So I Volt Switched out on the healing turn back to, yep, you guessed it, Gyarados. I'm able to outspeed and kill the Chonky Mouse with a Water Gem boosted Aqua Tail, before going back to Lantern to heal and win the fight with ease. Turns out being able to bait electric moves alongside a Pokemon with Water Absorb is pretty damn good, huh? I then make Sharon look like an absolute dweeb by dunking him with a fucking Basculin of all things, as Alder's introduced into the story. And we discover that he's not just another trainer, but the champion of the Unova region, while also informing Sharon that there's more to being a trainer than just being powerful, and that if he's just lusting for power, which is kinda real, that his quest will simply take him nowhere. Elesa gives Clay, the next gym leader, a quick buzz to lower the drawbridge as we get a Fearow for ourselves. This guy will likely just be a box warmer for the most part. Clay's angry, as in his eyes we're the reason for Team Plasma escaping, but it's no biggie for us. We can just head up Route 6, get a Shaking Grass encounter that is not chancy as I ban that. I end up getting an Emolga here after running from a fair few Eggies. This guy is... it's okay. But our cold storage encounter on the other hand is amazing. Vanillux is unironically an incredible Pokemon, with an incredible special attack stat and the moves to carry along with it. This guy's not great just yet while it's still a Vanillish, but it'll be very very handy later on with the Flying and Dragon Gems both in view. By going into the warmest place of all of Pokemon in the cold storage, I prove that dodging grunts isn't that hard, before we can then find a bukkake of Team Plasma grunts all huddled around a small little biscuit on the ground playing Jerkmate Ranked. I show them my Emerald Edger status and they all get destroyed in a matter of seconds, allowing me to go to the gym and fight the 5th gym leader, the Groundhog Cowboy, Clay. His team's set up to ruin you with Sandstream Hippowdon in the lead and Sandrush Excadrill. Alongside threats like Thick Club Marowak and Pasho Berry Steelix, he's really packing some serious punches, and it's at this point in the game where evidently, with the Mons and teams in front of us, that the game really stops pulling them. With that, let's take him down. His lead Hippowdon gets smacked by a single Grass Knot, and Seismitoad follows it out with a smooth 4x crit. I'm then able to hit Exca with an Energy Ball to do solid damage before sacking Butterfree to get a safe switch to Basculin and a clean kill with Water Gemmed Aqua Jet. Basculin's also then available to take out Crocodile after Clay uses his Hyper Potion on it with a couple clean Aqua Spankings, bringing out the big beefcake, Steelix. I go to Zatsu and use a Me First a few times in order to take out the Anal Beads with Fire Fangs, just leaving the final Mon Marowak. I hard switch to Lantern expecting to take a Stone Edge, but it goes pretty horribly, and we die to the Sandstorm damage after. So Parry can then come back in and finish the job, which is at least something, and we get our 5th badge for the efforts, while also tripling my death count. I'm able to slaughter Bianca yet again on Route 6, with her being quite literally 10 levels below me, which is insane for a single split, but it's fine by me. Upon our arrival to Chargestone Cave though, Clay gives us the TM for Bulldoze, while also destroying the Galvantula's webs. Anya's waiting for us here, looking for an audience, as we pass our test in Yaponomics, and go downstairs fighting all the grunts that are here. I honestly don't know why there's so many, but they're at least pretty chill to beat up on. Also, while we beat these guys, I want to talk about something. In Nuzlocking, there's a technique that I've spoken about before called Repel Manipulation. This is where you can lead a Pokemon that is below the level of certain wild encounters in the area. It's basically a way to segregate the encounter table to ensure you get something much better. Pokemon Blaze Black has 7 of these distinct manipulable encounters. However, they're all sub-legendary Pokemon, so for balance's sake, I'm only going to allow myself to get one of these, and the most situationally responsible Pokemon to grab is Zapdos, at level 50. So by leading my level 49 Emolga, I can end up getting the big bird quite easily, and at last we finally get a non-gym leader boss fight with a little bit of difficulty. This end fight in Chargestone Cave is a super cool concept, as he has all 6 forms of Rotom including the base. These guys are all pretty strong with good speed, solid bulk, and powerful stab attacks to hit us. Don't forget that they all have Levitate, making them only have single weaknesses instead of a potential Earthquake beatdown like I'd love to do. His first of many forms gets crunched instantly by Garchomp as he sends the Fridge out to Glaciate. I then go to Sork and send it clapping the Fridge back with a Brick Break before going to Rampardos on Hurricane before being parried by Thunder and still luckily being able to get the kill. It was alright, I still had the bird around to take it out if need be. So I go to Serp on the mower and I know I can outlast it, so I go for Dragon Pulse as it hits me with a Confuse Ray. No matter, it did trivial damage with Leaf Storm and one more hit finished it off. Gyarados comes on the oven but gets paralysed, so I can just go to Garchomp anyway to kill it with a couple of Dragon Claws before 2 more take out the washing machine, winning us the fight fairly easily. Before we go to take on Skyla, Juniper tells us that she's gone off east to Route 7, where I can get a superb Pokemon that could even potentially come to the Elite Four, Gliscor. If this Pokemon is Poison Heal, it's absolutely insane, with it having amazing utility, being able to stall and pivot so easily with its great typing. Yeah, no, mine's Hyper Cutter, which is still good, don't get me wrong, but it's no Poison Heal, is it? In Celestial Tower, I go up a couple floors to go and get my encounter for the best chance at a banger, and we get Litwick. The candle will pull its weight at certain points of this run, but for now it gets to take a back seat in box 1. Skyla just gets us to ring the bell before toddling back to the gym to go to work. Seriously, why are all of these gym leaders on annual leave every time I go to fight them? And we can look at her with nervousness in our eyes. She really is not pulling her punches here, with her triple battle being crazy as flying types are able to hit everywhere across the field. However, I have some odd tech and possibly the first good use of a move I've ever seen. In battle, the move Flatter is generally disregarded as a B-Tech Confuse Ray and a much worse form of Swagger. But in this fight, with a Persim on my Zapdos, I probably use the only tech that is ever possible with it, and can actually boost my special attack in a way that allows me to get kills that I just shouldn't be able to, without wasting my Zapdos' turn as it's always faster than Mandibuzz. By breaking her Skarmory Sturdy with an Ancient Power for the chance of a fictional Omni boost, I flattered my own Zapdos with Mandibuzz and Tailwind with Xatu, ensuring that I will be the fastest Pokemon on the field for the rest of the fight. I then protect with both my Wingmen to go for a Mammoth Discharge, taking out both Skarmory and Braviary. Swanna and Archeops both come in, and you're not going to believe what I'm able to do. I simply double switch to Pokemon that won't die as I take a whopper of a triple kill on the next turn, and Gliscor is her only Pokemon left, so I simply go nuts on it, killing it off with my gang and getting myself the Jet Badge with a fun strategy in this triple battle. N talks to us and is still confused as to why our Pokemon like this, but we think he's just a little odd and let him run away from his troubles. We finally have access to Surf after Gym 6. Nice and early, huh? This allows me to get a ton of encounters, with me, honestly, getting the best run of encounters I think I've ever seen myself have in a Nuzlocke before. We get Staryu in Drifell, Dino in Mr. Alton Cave, Shogun in the Guidance Chamber, Wailord on Route 17, Tentacle on Route 18, Porygon in P2 Lab, Larvesta Hatch in Sky Arrow Bridge, Sneasel in the Swiss Mountains, Gulpin in Isera City, Palpitoad on Route 8, and Wheezing in the Maw of Isera that blew up on me. That is an insane run of Mons. I'll be real, the natures are terrible for the most part, but when your Mons are truly of the top caliber, I don't think it matters a lot personally. Brycen is up next on the hit list, and his Icy team is actually really easily countered. Admittedly, there's no way for my Volcarona to be slower than his Abomasnow, even with an Iron Ball, so I simply protect with Garchomp to bait his ice attacks, and just Heat Waved with my Wide Lens Volcarona. The next turn I attacked Vanillux in order to get a little bit of chip off, to ensure that I could take a double kill with another Heat Wave from the sun. One more gets me close to winning, but unfortunately Volcarona got frozen by Cryogonal. This then forced me to take a double switch, and I just hammered down on the Snowflake before melting it, with a Wailord Water Spout for the freeze badge, leaving just one more to go. All of a sudden, we're flying through this game. Not that I'm complaining, we're going really well, and there's really not much left on the books, so let's blast into the endgame. Now in the Dragon Spiral Tower, we get ourselves a Horsey, which is really cool to get here, as Kingdra is awesome. In the tower is a massive bukkake of grunts and more, as Anne is capturing Zekrom at the top. Bit weird of all these guys to huddle around a 16-year-old in order to make her submit, but I don't control Ghetsis' desires. Or apparently Pokemon fans, but hey, we can beat them all just fine and get away to the pinnacle. We get told to go to the Relic Castle back in the Desert Resort to gain more information on the Lightstone, where we get a lore dump from Ghetsis saying we don't even deserve to be the hero of truths. Turned out that we had the right stone in the possession all along, as Lenora in Nacrane City pulled it from the display and gave it to us in order to have the best hope for fighting Plasma. Another Bianca fight, another annoying interruption on their way to victory. She's a triple, which can be awkward, but we have the answers just like we have for the entire run so far. Ghetsis then yaps, and yaps, and yaps some more on the two-line bridge, ensuring he gets his cardio in. With us arriving on Route 9, where there's some incredible encounters, the war with TMs, and so much more. Our Route 9 double encounter gives us all the choice in the world, with Fluffy and Fluffy. This guy's pretty decent, but with the limited amount of fights left, it'll probably only come to about 3. We pull in our Opelucid to see Ghetsis spitting some fire bars, before being introduced to Iris and Drayden, the gym leaders of Opelucid City, and get an Unbound length lore dump, which as you can see I read so much of. I also swung through and grabbed a Route 10 encounter in the Doubles Grass, with me getting a Scrafty, which is really good with its typing and move pool. I love Scrafty. Now though comes the final gym leader Drayden, and his team is stacked through the roof. This is a rotation battle, which, as I'm sure you're already aware of, I don't really enjoy, but is kind of okay for us at this point. Turns out that a high EV'd Garchomp goes really hard. I don't know who would have thought of such a thing, but when you have a chance to click Dragon Claw 6 times to beat a boss fight, well, that's not very nice. Just kidding. Legend badge in the box, and the gates of hell are opened. With some expert trainer dodges and a rival fight that is basically the final wipe point before the Elite Four, we get through Victory Road. Now though, we're at the league, and with the PC in Ent's Castle, we're able to look at this and really only prepare for the Elite Four teams instead of them, N and Ghetsis like we could otherwise. Our Elite Four team is pretty good and has a wildcard entry with Xatu in the Elite Four, mainly for martial memes. A dual Dark Core of Weavile and Hydreigon should do enough where it needs to, and Gliscor and Zapdos will of course be handy when needed. Gengar's the other enigma of the Elite Four team, with its frailty being a probable problem. All of the battles in Blaze Black's Pokemon League are doubles and 6 vs 6 fights. Shauntal is up first for us, and our double Dark gang goes off here. A Night Slash from Weavile and a Dark Pulse from Hydreigon will be the status quo here, as I took out her leads instantly. Repeating this left her with just 2 Pokemon, and then one turn later, she was all of a sudden out of the way. Whoa, that was fast. There's now only 3 fights left, and Caitlin's fight is interesting. We use them once more, and this time we can hit Mujana with a taunt from Hydreigon, as well as a Night Slash from Weavile onto Sigilif. By taunting the Mashana, it's now completely unable to attack, with it only having status moves and Psychic. Gothitelle comes in, and I go for a big double hit to break it, before Hydreigon sorts out the Maronet. Bronzong hits the field, and this is where giving Hydreigon Flamethrower came good, with us taking out the Bell immediately. Mishana's still there, by the way, just chilling as it has for the past 3 turns. Does this remind anyone of EK Norman, by any chance? Reuniclus is in, and I go for a taunt on the Mishana, but unfortunately for us, Reuniclus still got off a Trick Room, as I went for an Ice Shard. Mishana is still unable to touch us, and I now bite the bullet and took out the Embryo with a huge Dark Pulse, leaving just her final 2 Pokemon. I switched Weavile out to Gliscor, and Hydreigon took a Thunderbolt, as Behem went down to another Dark Pulse, and Hydreigon is starting to get pretty low on HP. I hard sent Weavile back in against Reuniclus to take an Energy Ball, and Dark Pulse was able to kill it off, giving me a pretty chill first couple of Elite Four fights. I lead Hydreigon and Zapdos against Grimsley, and can hammer down with a big Thunderbolt on the Shark and a fat D-Pulse on the Liepard to one-shot both of them. This brings in Bisharp and Absol, who can see kill on my Hydreigon, so so I go to Gengar on the double bug move and T-Bolt again with Zapdos to do huge damage, before getting surprised by it going for Stone Edge on my ass instead. It's fine though, I switch Gengar out here, pivoting it to Weavile so I don't go down to an X-Scissor, as I do some chip to Bishop after healing. I then fake out Absol and Thunderbolt Bishop here to make sure that he just doesn't kill anything, and can take out the chess piece. Houndoom is in and Intim drops my ass, meaning Weavile's not the play, as I go back out to Hydreigon as Zapdos kills off the Disaster, leaving just his final 2 Pokemon on the field. I protect with Zapdos assuming there's at least one move coming its way, and Depulse to not quite take out the Honchkrow, and Hydreigon proceeds to then get eviscerated by the suicidal bird. It's okay at this point as I don't have that much need for it after this with Marshall and Enengetsus. A smooth Ancient Power and Bulldoze does the job from here and puts Grimsley down once and for all. Now to take on the final member of this Elite Four, eating the XP all this time, rather than letting me gain more on my Dark types, Xatu. I had thought to use some me first strategy with Throw having Fling, but I eventually came to realise that really wasn't going to work out a whole lot. I led with dual flying types to counteract his fighter bros in Throw and Sork, as I protected with Xatu turn 1 and went for Flying Gem boosted Acrobatics to one-shot the bulky Throw, bringing in Poliwrath as it sees kill on Gliscor here. But I am able to pull out the Calc and check stuff off. An Air Cutter from Xatu plus Bulldoze from Gliscor does just about enough to take it out, as a massive payback leaves Xatu within an inch of its life. Marshall heals the Sork here, meaning I only needed to worry for one Mon, but thanks to Xatu hitting both, I could double target Mienshao, bringing in Conkeldurr who's ready to shove a pillar up my ass. I protect with Xatu in case of Mark Punch and Acrobatics the Conk, taking it out in a single blow as Sork targets Xatu yet again. After pulling its weight so tremendously hard in this fight that it warranted me giving the EXP share the whole time, I switched to Gengar and Acrobatics the Sork, removing it out of my way. Breloom then goes for the 100% accurate Spore just to piss me off as it has a Sash, meaning Gengar could not OHKO it no matter what. We stayed in for a turn going for a Dark Pulse to maybe get a lucky flinch, as it puffs out even more Spores. I stay in for one turn more to maybe wake up or something, but it comes to no avail, as I go to Zapdos hoping to not get Spored again, as this time Gengar takes big damage from Bullet Seed. From here I switched Weavile in, as Gengar was certainly dead and protected with the bird. But I forgot that Bullet Seed was 4 times resisted on Gengar, and that Weavile's defense was about as good as a broken rubber. I'm in an awkward spot here, but Xatu's my saviour, even though I was ready to sack it before, pulling us through Marshall almost single-handedly. Now, as we all know, next up is Order, or it would be, but LAW! What the fuck is a well-paced JRPG? Wait, it's this? Damn, I see you, Gen 5. And is confronting Order at the pinnacle of the Pokemon League after beating his ass so hard that he submits to them. And they pull this 100 meter tall castle out of the ground that makes absolutely no architectural sense? Seriously, how on earth do you even feasibly build this underground? Let alone with the mechanics to raise it above Earth. And also, how do you not get noticed even once building this shit around the Pokemon League where the strongest trainers in the region reside? What the fuck? Anyway, N is now waiting for us to prove our convictions to him and show that we are truly the hero of truths that he wishes to test his desires against. And if you've ever played Black and White before, you also know that there's a crazy Getsus fight straight after this, with no mercy for the player apart from N healing our Pokemon between the fights. Now though, we have to prepare for an effective 12 versus 6 fight, and I'm not using Reshiram. Box arts are not okay. Sub-legendaries, sure. Box arts, no. After a few hours skimming through the calcs, I come to the conclusion that Gengar almost single-handedly destroys this fight, taking kills purely for the sake of it, and nothing more. Now though, we get even more lore, and a cutscene that made 11-year-old me literally pog so hard. With that though, this is the final fight of the Blaze Black Hardcore Nuzlocke. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button because you're clearly invested in this video. And I love making videos like this that really show the game for all it is. After catching the legendary and not adding it to my team, N leads off with Zekrom. Right? If you were eagle-eyed enough to spot it in the docks, you saw this as Zoroark, and we critical hit it, clapping it out of the way. Aerodactyl comes out, and luckily for us, we outspeed it and can kill with a Thunderbolt, leaving the fossil dead once more. Shadow Ball slams the goat of Kaizo Nuzlocke out of the battle, and Porygon Z dies to just a single Aura Sphere, finally bringing in Zekrom. I go to Bisharp here, hoping to get the right side of the 50-50, which we didn't get going for us. And I simply Night Slash before sacking the chess piece off to a Dragon Claw, and can then bring in Garchomp, who is able to destroy Zekrom and the final Magmortar. Getsus now finally crawls out of the woodwork, calling his son an utter disgrace, and revealing his true plans to us all. His desire to simply control the masses, his desire for true power over the people, by being the only trainer with Pokemon. He also revealed that N was just to be a scapegoat for the face of Team Plasma, in an effort to show that they were in fact kind and benevolent, rather than being this charade of a cult that they truly were on the inside. Now, for us, is the real final battle. The lead Drapion is obviously going to kill my Gengar, forcing me to go straight out to Garchomp, who takes the Night Slash fairly well in the end before firing back with a huge Bulldoze. I honestly expected to kinda lose Garchomp here, but Gen 5 AI saved me, as I'm able to do some solid chip with Dragon Claw after Toxic Spikes, and can then kill the Scorpion off straight after. This brings out General Insect. Yeah, that's a mythical in a Drayano hack on your screen. I go for a Flamethrower, not quite breaking the sash, and letting Garchomp go down, as I was willing to lose it anyway. This allowed me to bring in Volcarona, who can set up the sun to fire a mildly damaging Flame Charge to boost my speed stat. Electros is brought in, and with the sun out, I'm actually able to kill it off with a single hit. Gyarados is obviously going to wall us here, so I go for another Heat Wave to maybe get a lucky burn before literally dodging the Aqua Tail. I don't know, man. When the run is the run tells you all you need to know. I go across to Gliscor on the Earthquake to dodge entirely before going for an Acrobatics. Thanks to him not seeing any rolls that killed us, he went from a big Dragon Dance. And then Aqua Tail's at low HP, knowing he's dead, doing huge damage to Gliscor. A Dragon comes out now, and I simply repeat, going for another Acrobatics, as Dark Pulse kills my guy, but gets it to low enough that Gengar can kill it with an Aura Sphere, leaving just his final Pokemon Dusknoir. Gengar proceeds to take yet another kill, winning us the Pokemon Blaze Black Hardcore Nuzlocke on just the first attempt. As I said there though, when it's the run, the game does everything to tell you all you need to know to realize it. With some incredible encounters, moments and strategies, from terrible monkeys to literally the best encounters I've ever seen, to confusing my own Pokemon, this game made me use interesting new tech that I'd never even thought of before, and that made it all the more enjoyable, and that's why we do this with Nuzlocke and so many more challenge runs. And with that, N says farewell, and so do I. If you did enjoy, leave a like, consider subscribing, and otherwise, thank you all for watching. Until next time, see you all in the next one. Peace.
Redux coming soon.